create a nation that conduces to the greatest happiness of the greatest number of people. That is what a constitution must be. And having set the objective of the constitution, you then frame a constitution to achieve that objective.
Because we really do have a race problem. Those divisions are real. We see it in our politics, we see it in our trade union. We see that they take the divisions with them. Look at where people live in this US. You have enclaves in the Bronx and in Richmond Hill and in Brooklyn. They're taking the division with them.
Women are dying in the streets, and we have a government pontificating running around campaigning for women's vote. No women should vote in this election coming up unless there is something done to the legislation as Magistrate Kim is advocating.
That voices like ours that are not in the political trench fighting it out, voices like ours should become stronger. One of the things about the Caribbean is that we have never had one discourse. Bass will know the days of the New World and the Old World and the radical left and so on. What we had was this concourse of ideas, which I think in the early days of independence pushed us in a certain direction. We've got to move back to that point of having these multiple discourses.
A pleasant good morning to all our viewers, and thank you for taking time off from your busy schedule this wonderful Saturday morning and tuning in to the Globespan 24x7 broadcast. Today I am Stephen Singh, and I will be with you for the next 1 hour or so on this of the first program, which will be the first of a series of programs where we'll have young people discussing different topics, different issues affecting us in our society. With me today is a young man. His name is Imamsi Boza. He's from the Republic of Congo, as well as another young lady who will be joining us via Skype in a few minutes, Samantha Shira Prasad. She will be Skyping in just a few minutes. Today we have a very topical issue that has been on the forefront in many society. It is a topic and it is an issue that somehow finds itself in every society, in every country. Today we will be discussing some of the roles that young men play in today's society. But before we start the discussion, I'll give my colleague and my friend here an opportunity to introduce himself to our viewers.
Hi everyone, my name is Imamsi Mbosa. I was born in the Republic of Congo. And now I am a human rights activist. I am also a global peace ambassador. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Before we continue, I've met this young man, myself, and a few other young people from different parts of the world. We usually represent our country at the United Nations every year at the annual International Human Rights Summit. And that's how I met with him. And as we progress with this show every month or so, you will find that we will be having young people as speakers for representing different parts of the world. And again, I want to thank you for tuning into the Globespan 24/7 live program, whether you're tuning in from Guyana, the Caribbean, the United States, Canada, England, and I'm happy to say that tuning in right now, we have viewers from Africa, thanks to my colleague here today. So the issue of the roles of men, young men in our society, I'm absolutely certain that we can all agree that over the years, the roles and the functions of the young man or the male figure in the homes, in our communities, have changed somewhat or the other. And these springs from so many different societal implications, societal pressures, and what's not. So, my colleague here, what do you think dictates the roles of a young man in our society? Is it the fact that he was born with some physical feature, or does it have to do with the whole issue of gender and what society sees as being a masculine or feminine? Or do these societal roles, gender roles, apply to what we see a young man ought to be, or what society dictates a young man ought to be today?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think the this issue about how young men see the world and how they interact with the world is very important. I think for me, as I always say to during discussions, I think when a human being is born is innocent for at the early age. Once a baby, you are innocent. We come to this world like free, free of mind, without having any burden of culture,
Absolutely.
of any perceptions. But the more we are growing up, we learn from the family, we learn from the culture. We are being imposed a certain way of thoughts that will go with us further in our lives, and that will actually determine our way of seeing the world, our way to define the world. So, to answer your question, I think we as young men, we learn everything from our culture, and then this is how we are, we become. That's how we interact with the society.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And it's very interesting that we as human rights activists and youth ambassadors for our respective countries at the United Nations, that you would mention human rights there, which is our first and fundamental human rights. We are born free of these things. We are born equal. But you're absolutely right. From the day we were born, be it a boy or a girl, we are being taught and we are being socialized in such a way that would either determine whether we approach, manhood or femininity in such a way that was already dictated from the day we were born. If you can tell me a bit, what are some of the social construct in your country, in your part of the world, that where a young man is socialized in such a way from the day he was born, and then after I'll tell you how we were brought up in my part of the world as a young man.
Yeah, thank you again for the question. So I think in my part of the world, I mentioned that I'm coming from Congo, the Central Africa, which when we are born, especially young men, we are given a certain responsibility to the family, for instance. And then when growing up, we see that we are being given a lot of authority in the family, a lot of responsibility, as I just said. And then this, not mentioning how, girls growing up in the same family, they are being like neglected. They're being putting aside from the society, from the decision process in the family. So for me, for example, like when growing up, so first I am the first child in my family, and second I'm a man. So I have like a double position in my family as a man and as a first child to decide and to help my family. So growing up, this happened in all countries, like in Central Africa. This is how it is. So young girls, unfortunately, which is bad, they are being given secondary roles, secondary tasks in the family, not the power of decision. So
let me ask you one question. You mentioned that girls are not given that place where they can make decisions. Are they completely barred from making decisions, or are they just given second thought? Is it a case where they have no voice, or their opinion is just secondary?
Yeah, I think they have a voice, but it counts as a secondary thought.
Okay.
Which is unfortunate, right? I think young girls should be given the same opportunity of sharing ideas, giving their thoughts at the same level, with equality. With their brothers.
And which comes back again to a fundamental human right, that we are free and we are equal. Well, I can tell you, for us in my part of the world there, I'm Guyanese, and in that whole Caribbean locale there, when we were born as a young man growing up, firstly, the toys that your parents will buy for you, you know, there are things like cars, already creating in the young man's mind, you know, as a young man, this is what you have to do. One day you'll have to be driving, you have to get your car. There were guns and everything that's masculine. On the flip side to that, girls will be getting toys like dolls and tea sets and what's not. Now, what are you instilling there? You're already creating a bias and a double standard there. So you are training your girl child now with all of these things. Oh, how to start taking care of a baby, how to start being a housewife. So you are confining her from that small age to four walls in the house, which doesn't border itself on equality at all, right? But as we start here, we will be moving into the depth of our topic, but we just want to build upon how our perception now as young men and how we as young men approach society and approach everything today, where it exactly stems from. And it stems from our socialization from the day we were born. And we see Samantha is tuning in here with us. Good morning, Samantha. Thank you for tuning in with us. I know you had some hiccups there with your commute to the studio, but thank you again for tuning in. You already know our topic: the roles of young men in today's society. Let me just give you a minute or two to introduce yourself and tell us a bit of what you've been doing there in Guyana and the Caribbean as well.
Good morning, everyone. Fantastic Saturday morning to all our viewers and to my co-panelists, two wonderful young men as well. I'm Samantha Shoprashad, the current Carry Commute Ambassador for Guyana, and also the Facebook developer lead for Guyana as well. So most of my work stem from community development, youth development, and I'm now getting into tech entrepreneurship and also peace mixed with mental health and so forth. So mostly the work that I do is dedicated towards sustainable development and 2030 goals primarily. So I'm really privileged to be a part of this discussion because I believe that we all play a role in today's society, and we all have a voice and we all have something to participate in to make that change.
That is so true. We all have a part to play in impacting our society and creating that change that we want to see. Samantha, let me ask you one question. I know you've been doing a lot of work in Guyana, and I know I've been seeing your pictures. You've been doing a whole lot of stuff in the Caribbean region as well. And you have been working with not just young ladies, but with young men as well. And I'm pretty sure you can give testimony from your experience as to a young man's approach in our Caribbean region there to the professional world, to the world of work, to the broader society, and so on. But let me pose a question to you, and I asked Imam C this earlier. With regards to how we as young men approach everything today, do you think it's because of the way we were born physically, or does it have to do with these roles that society and the whole concept of gender would have imposed upon us from the day we were born, the day we were born, and the way we were socialized from that day leading up to today, and how we approach everything in our lives?
I believe from the minute you step into this world, your being has some form of inheritance from generation before, right? One. Two, our culture, the people who we are, where we come from, plays a critical role in our development. So that will impact a young man's mindset throughout, especially with what he's given at a young age and whilst growing up. So sometimes within our culture, men are told that they are the lead one in the society. They're the one who's going to take the role, and they should not allow a skirt to ever rule them. And if a skirt ever rule them, it means that you are somewhere lower than a woman, and you are inferior to a woman. So society and their constructs have a very critical role it plays on a young man's development, especially the kind of action that he will take
Absolutely.
in his current state and in future as well. And many times our young man make decision based on those construct that
Right.
was thrown
Right.
at them at a very young age or whilst growing. Because if you are the young man and you are told that, hey, you can't let a woman rule you, but it's not like that. The woman doesn't want to rule you. She wants you to listen to her. She wants you to collaborate with her, right? And there is no thing where we should see a man is up there and a woman is down here. Let's strive for equality, you
Right,
know?
absolutely. I totally agree with you and what you just said. When I used to work there in Guyana, I was the Men's Affairs Officer for a department of the Ministry of Social Protection called the Men's Affairs Bureau, now known as the Gender Affairs Bureau. And our work fundamentally was addressing social issues affecting men and boys in Guyana, and by extension, we worked with several organizations in the Caribbean. And what we came across, and you touched on this, Samantha, the misconstrued ideas of masculinity and how it affects the young man. I mean, it is amazing on what our masculinity is built on. You know, these distorted ideas. It's, it is amazing. Would you like to say something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Samantha. You I really like your perspective. So what I was trying to say is that even though we have inherited from this culture of seeing masculinity as being superior, I think it's still a substantial job for young men actually to take a stand to say this is not right. That's why I'm here even today to say that okay, we have been taught for many years from generation to generation that we should take we are the one responsible for our society, but it's not true because we were not here on this earth on this in this life alone.
Right.
From the religion's perspective, I can say that when God saw that a man was alone, He provided a woman.
Exactly.
So that is to say that we cannot live by ourselves. We have to work to collaborate with
Right.
our sisters. Our sisters. We should be working together in order to find, in order to create a better world. So this is their fundamental right to aim or to think to work, to have a dream, to work to have the same type of jobs than like what we are doing. So just an example I have seen. I'm taking too much time, but
No, it's
yeah,
good.
just an example. It is crazy to realize that young women who are playing soccer, for example, are paying way less than the colleague men or the men who are playing soccer.
Right.
So this has to change because we need equality pay.
Right.
Because they are giving the same amount of effort, of physical effort, intellectual effort than
Completely
men.
agree with you.
Yeah, so this has to change, and I'm here. Hopefully, I'm giving that voice and we need like young men to take that responsibility because, of course, we were born, we were conditioned to think like we are like kind of superior, but today it is our job. What are we doing? So, yeah.
All right, as we move on in this discussion, we touch on the issue of these misconstrued ideas and these negative ideas of masculinity. Samantha, from the Guyana Caribbean perspective, can you give us some examples of what our culture and what our socialization or upbringing would have paid to these misconstrued ideas of masculinity, and then I'll come to you with what are some of the negative, ideas of masculinity in your part of the world. I think we would love to hear some of those. So, Samantha.
Many times when you see a woman, and I have gone through this myself, when you see a woman in leadership role, and as a man, I find that society will do everything to bring her down or to put her down. And when there's a man, you try everything or society will lift him up,
Mhm.
right? Experience that. Also, when it comes to payment, I feel that women are not being recognized so much. When it comes to workplace, sometimes women are being abused. They have to give up their body just to land themselves in a position.
Right.
In some cases, when it comes to masculinity in the home, the woman cannot make a decision without the man.
Mhm.
If she make a decision without the man, then that's a problem. If a woman wants to go free from that relationship, she gets killed, she gets murdered, battered, abused.
I
If she
completely
speaks
get you.
out on something that may threaten her peace or
Mhm.
her security,
Mhm.
she's taunted. And then society, who creates all these constructs, come back to put the woman down.
I totally get you.
Many times our women are not given a platform or a chance to speak, to voice their opinion and how they feel.
Which is why,
And I feel
Samantha,
that men have an equal role to play in this too. It's not
absolutely.
a man's world, it's not a woman's world, it's our world. And we need to collaborate to get these kinds of social issues that is currently happening, because it's happening to us. It is us who are playing a key and important role, a part of contributing to some of these social issues when it comes to our mindset, our action, and our culture. Our culture in the Caribbean have basically taught us that the man, even in the religion, the man is God.
Mhm. I
The woman is
completely
inferior.
I completely agree with you, which is why, Samantha, when we started planning this program, I said that it is absolutely imperative that we have a female voice and we have a female perspective. And that's where you come in. But with regards to the negative ideas of masculinity, where we come from, and some of our culture will allow for us to believe and be taught that women are subservient to men, and men become like you said, God and the figurehead there, and
Yeah.
certain roles in the home are for the men, certain roles in the community are for the men. The woman, we were talking earlier before you came in, that from the day we were born, and you know, in Guyana, when Christmas time comes around, everybody buys toys and what's not. But what
Yeah.
kind of toys are being bought for the boys? You have cars and trucks and guns and all these things. The girl, on the
Yeah.
other hand, you don't see books, you don't see something that will empower a girl in the area of education and career. You see things like teapot sets, dolls, and what's not,
Barbie and
and those kind of things.
Jesus
What are you
Barbie.
doing then? You are automatically
Exactly.
training a girl child from the day she was born to
Yeah.
be a housewife, to be a mother, to be confined to four walls. Four walls.
Mhm.
You are not bringing into her perspective from a young age that there is more that you can offer to this world than just four walls and just cleaning and cooking and doing all these things. Now,
Yeah.
we will come to a question that that addresses some of these things quite shortly. But these are some of the misconstrued ideas of of what it means to be a man and what a man should be doing. And it
Yeah.
does more damage to society and the home than it does good. Agreed?
Exactly. And before you move on, Anthony, there's one more thing that I wanted to say. You know the menstrual cycle of a woman, right? So a woman goes through the menstrual cycle, and I know in some religious contexts, once she is menstruating means that she is unclean, she's in a bad state, she cannot pray to God, she cannot partake in some of the religious things. This is something that God made us with. This is what makes us a creator. And if you're going to tell me that the womb, which is the womb of the universe, is impure, it's unclean. I cannot partake because I'm a woman. Then what am I doing here? You know, it makes you feel less in society.
Right.
Having to be told, you know, you come with your clean mind and everything, and having to be told, hey, you cannot partake because it's that time of the month, yeah?
Thank you very much.
It's
What
pretty
would you like
disgusting.
to add, Imam C?
So, thank you again, Samantha, for bringing this out. It is very unfortunate to realize how, you know, we can uh, we are blaming the society. This social misconstruct of our society is we are practically blaming women for what they for their biological condition, and being putting them aside, not to not to act like in terms of religion, for example, because she's a woman, because she's in that period of the month, and she cannot actually be part of something. This is very bad. I think this perception needs to change, because they it's not their fault actually. They
No,
are,
that
yeah.
the issue that Samantha just brought up, it is completely natural, completely biological. So
Right.
in no way should any form of looking down or any form of condescension should be placed on a woman because of something that is completely natural. That is
Natural.
absolute ludicrous.
Yeah.
You know, as we continue, we're all in our 20s here. I'm absolutely certain. Now, how has gender roles and how have the roles of men and women changed in our countries and in our society over the past 20 years? I'll let you go first, and then Samantha, and then I'll add.
I think over the past 20 years, the role has drastically changed. We in the Congo, where I come from, we have seen more women participation in decision making in the political area in my country, where today we have up to 6 ministers as being women in the
Excellent.
government.
Excellent.
And then, so people are trying to see things differently, and we have realized that most of the time we put women in charge in like in the political area. Things are improving because first, I think it is also great a woman as being a mother to when being put in a position, she really takes care of like the position she has.
Absolutely. Takes complete
Today,
responsibility for
yeah,
what's
she
there in
takes
front
the
of her.
responsibility, and then she's giving the best, and actually because she's fighting first for her image. First, because she's been perceived as, you know, powerless, and she has to overcome that perception. And then, second, she's giving what she knows. She's bringing the best of her best on the table. So she actually bringing the double measure of skills on the table, and this is very great. Today in the Congo, many young women are taking part of decision, and then we have many organizations, many youth organizations who are led by women, which I really applaud. And I think also like in the U.S., let's say 20 years ago, there was no like 2 or 3 female candidates for the elections, presidential elections.
The presidential
but today,
elections.
when you see like in the Democrats,
Right.
you see like they are up to I don't know, maybe six or 5.
The roles have definitely changed. Where
roles
women are stepping up to the plate.
Women are stepping up, and then I think this fight is theirs, but we have to partner with them and in order to bring them up.
Absolutely. I love that you would say that. Even though they're in the fight, it is incumbent upon we, especially young men, especially if a young woman would step up to that play. Are we going to feel threatened as young men? And masculinity and machoism will cause us to feel threatened. But when you have a pure sense of masculinity, that they will propel you to what you rightly said, to encourage them, to stand beside them, work with her, you know, as she works towards attaining that position or status or whatever. Samantha, how has gender roles, especially the roles of young women and young men, changed in Guyana and the Caribbean region over the past 20 years? What do we see young men doing now that they didn't do 10, 15, 20 years ago? And what do we see young girls doing today that we didn't see them being able to do a few years back? Also, so I'm putting three questions there to you. Also, what have been the role, or how have you seen young men operating in the professional world in the Caribbean and Guyana, where you're from there?
Thank you very much, Anthony, for the question. So the role which young women are now playing in our country and in the Caribbean, they're stepping up to leadership role. Some of them are becoming bosses, they are running their own business, and they're becoming equal contributors of the household as well, just like men would usually do, or be head of the home. And I see that women have taken up the role, and they're becoming more present at the decision-making table in our country, in our region, not just in parliament, but also in decision-making that really affects national development and local development, community development. Women are now taking up those roles. And when it comes to boys and men of our time, I see that men and boys of our time are now learning to adapt to that change that is currently happening, and most of them, they have that background where they're supporting the woman to grow and to develop, maybe get education, supporting them to do something even little just for personal development, when it comes to her well-being and so forth. On the other side, we still have to deal with stigma, where there is ignorance existing. We still have to deal with challenges where persons have not come to grips where they feel that a woman should not be in a position like this, because they're being taught for all their life that, well, a woman should not be in that position. Well, she should just, stay home and just wash pots and cook and just be a normal basic housewife.
Yeah.
And your last question, can you repeat it for me, please?
My last question, how has the role changed, right? And you've worked with young men in the Caribbean and Guyana. What has been their approach? And in most cases, I see you being the leader. What has been their approach and their attitude towards you as a young lady being a leader? I'm pretty sure they're supportive, but have you had any instances where the young men, who are young professionals themselves, being threatened in any way by you being their boss or giving oversight to whatever project you're involved in?
I found that to happen like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But currently, I found that men are more supportive. The team that I work with, I am one of the 3 girls that is on our team. And most of them are men. And I existed in a class
Young men,
of
that is, right?
students. Yeah, these are young people, right? All under the age of 35. I found that men are more supportive now, and they understand the fundamental role that a woman can play in their personal development, in their community development, and their national development. We have that development happening. It's taking its course, of course. We can't have everything all at once. And I found that it's being very disruptive. It's not being traditional, because sometimes even men stand up for women's rights out there.
Yep.
And they are standing up for women's rights without any apology, without following any cultural construct or any colonial construct, if you want to call it that. And I'm very proud of those young men who have taken up those roles to support women, because I believe that if we are going to support this development of a world with equality and equity, men are our key stakeholders.
Absolutely.
If we are going to fight things like domestic violence, mental health, suicide, and all these social issues that are affecting us, men need to be prepared as well.
Absolutely. Um, Thank you very much, Samantha. That there was truly enlightening, and it's good that you brought that perspective. And it's good that men, especially young men, are now realizing that there is more to being a young man than just confining yourself and becoming a victim to the negatives of what it means to be a young man. And if I might add to that, we were raised in a society that really imposed upon us the negatives of being a man. You know, society would tell us, oh, you have to be the doctor, the girl gonna be the nurse. Back in the day, how many female doctors did you find? Right, there were more nurses. Now society will tell us that, oh, you're a young man, you don't have to dress neat or what's not, right? You have to be tough and messy and rugged. You know, these are some of the negative things, and you will find young men patterning their lives based on these negatives, you know. And what does that do?
Yes.
It breeds nothing good. You will find a young men following all of these trends, dropping out of school, not taking care of their own hygiene, their own health, their own education, because they have fallen victim to the negative societal pressure of what it means to be a man, a real man as they call it, you know, or one of
I
these
heard
things.
that term.
But it brings us to our next question, Imam C. And I would love for you to answer this, and we discuss this a bit. How can we, like you and I and so many other young men, we are not rugged, we are not rough, we don't go out there and pick a fight, we don't bully, we don't do all of these things. How can young men assume what it is to be a man without falling victim of all the stereotypes and all of the backlashes that might come from society? And we all know the names that they would want to call a young man who wants to walk that path, and he is a man. But he chooses not to be, you know, on the negative side of things. So how can a young man play his role, assume a pure, wholesome, masculine role without falling victim to the stereotypes?
Yeah, thank you. I think a young man need to be brave enough, you know. It takes a lot of resilience from on the man perspectives. You know, what we hear more about men's pride. So
right,
we need
right.
to
Machoism and
machoism,
male ego and all of these things, you know?
main ego. We need actually to put aside our
Absolutely.
ego. We need to be an example. We need to be models, you know, because we need to be partner. Actually, we need to be more aware of the situation. You know, all this trauma perpetrated over generation, over years. So we need to take a position. We need to take a stand by helping constructing a better society, being a partner of, you know, fighting for gender equality. You know, in our families, first we need to stop being seeing ourselves superior than our
Right,
sisters.
right.
You know, in a family, when even you are a little brother, even your old sister, you see yourself still as a boss. You know, we need to drop all this aside.
Yeah, we need to move away.
We need to
from
move away
that,
from
yeah.
that, and then we need to empower our sisters. We need to empower all women to educate them and
Right.
to inspire them. You know, there is a saying. I just came from Africa, by the way. We went to a campaign,
Yeah, I
educational
actually
campaign
saw some of your work there
Yeah.
that you were doing just last week, was it?
last week.
Uh-huh.
So we went to the Gambia, where we empower the community to educate young girls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need to send them to school, because when you educate one man, you educate one person, but
Absolutely.
you educate a girl, you are educating the entire society. Because first, this young girl will be a mother, and she will also be the one taking responsibilities. So I think to wrap it, we young men, we have a big role to play even in our families. You being supportive, take initiative, because when you just we just play the victims, this is actually playing the game, right? We need to stand up and then talk and then be model. We need to act like real role model man.
Absolutely. Before we continue, I'd like to thank all our viewers again. Feel free to post your comments and your questions. We'll answer them best as possible as we can there in the comments portion. I've always said something, and I will continue to say it. And that's saying, this is my personal saying, that we as young men, we have a responsibility to our girls. We have sisters, we have cousins, and I believe we ought to be there for them, not just to protect them, but to give guidance when needed, to counsel when needed. Even our neighbors, the girls in our communities. Sadly, we see young men try to take advantage at every given opportunity. And you know where I'm coming from, Samantha. They might see a girl out there. Oh, let me see if I can, score, for a lack of a better term. Rather than seeing this young lady as having potential, let me see how I can nurture that potential. Let me see how I can bring to light and develop what she has so that she brings something to society. But sadly, where I'm from, young men more often than not will want to score and see young ladies as an object, and not to bash young men, but we need to be educated and we need to know our roles. It does not make you a man when you can say, oh, well, I've been with her. No, that is not your responsibility to women. Your responsibility as a young man is far different. It is far different. You have a responsibility to protect, to guide, to nurture, to always be there, to be someone looking out for them. Like, I would not be walking on the street in my community or whatnot and see somebody try to harm a young lady. I may not know her, but I would do what best I can to protect that integrity and whatever is there. But I am glad. Times are changing, our young men are becoming more educated, and I believe as we progress as a society, we will reach a place where young men know their place in society, where they understand their role as a young man, and where we can work together as men and women to create a better society. Samantha, to you, as we're on the roles of young men, naturally, a young man might find a wife and he ventures into family. What do you think might be some of the roles of a young man to family and children and community?
I believe a man's role to woman, to family, to children is to be an example and to pave that path for them to feel protected, feel safe in their own space. It is his role also to be a progenitor, a protector, a provider in our community. And he holds that important baton, if you want to call it that, that will pass on to the next generation. So what he does here is really important. How he loves his wife, how he treats his wife, how he speaks to his wife will be something that will transfer into the next generation. How he treats his daughter.
Absolutely.
How he teaches us, or how a father can teach us, well, this is what love is. Because if we don't understand and appreciate what love is, well, we can understand and appreciate another man, right? And many times, love is being transformed in the form of sex in our culture. And it's just plain, quite black sex. Everybody's just about sex and scoring on a woman, as you said. Like someone asked me the other day, what position you like? I said, oh my God, I love the head of the table. I love to be the boss. And there's no problem with that. So sometimes you as a woman have to come up with these constructs to protect yourself.
I agree.
It's like self-defense without hurting anyone.
Right.
Or putting anyone down, right?
Right.
So a man's role is to protect a woman, as well a woman's role to protect a man. Too. We must all look out for each other. And there have been huge investment and programs into educating women, into developing women, into reducing inequality. But are we investing in our boys and men too?
Exactly.
I have been keen about
It is
that.
absolutely
I've been
important
very keen
that
about
that
because
investment.
we don't. Okay, I'll go. If we don't invest in our men, then we are going to be faced with an imbalance that is going to be highly disastrous because we're not preparing our men for all these career women. When a career woman is sitting in front of a man who is not so developed, how does he deal with that? There you come, insecurity, jealousy, rivalry, and all these things happening, because I remember a woman told me she went through so much because she was working more than her husband.
Uh-huh.
How are we preparing a man for that? So these are key and important questions that we need to ask ourselves moving forward. With the role that men has to play in society, are we empower them to take that role? Are we giving them the amount of education to eradicate that ignorance? Are we equipping them with enough tools to take action?
I completely agree with you, Samantha. As much as we invest in our women and girl child, much needs to be invested in the boy child as well in terms of education. I think we have a commercial break. So we'll go to that and we'll be right back with you.
L'Amour is helping to sponsor Globespan 24x7 programs. L'Amour will be celebrating Diwali on board the Princess Luxury Yacht with a cruise on October 19th at 6:30 p.m. Take a cruise down the Hudson with non-stop Diwali celebrations plus DJ and fashion show. Tickets start from $75. That's a Diwali cruise on board the Princess Yacht on October 19th at 6:30 p.m. Call Angeli at 845-545-9936 or Shika at 646-732-0065.
Thank you and welcome back. Our topic today is the roles of young men in today's society. We can all agree that the roles of men and women have changed tremendously over the past 20 years or so. And so my question to you, Imam C, how can we equip? Samantha just mentioned that the much needs to be invested in our young men and boy child. My question to you, what can we do or how can we go about equipping our young men to become better contributors to the social, cultural, and economic development in their countries? As well as how do we equip young men to become and realize their full potential as fathers, brothers, husbands, and role models in society?
Oh, wow, that's a very great question. So there is a program like if we met him at the United Nations during the Youth for Human Rights. He's actually doing something great. He has his organization called Determine something. So
I think I came across it.
Yeah, he actually is doing something powerful by empowering young men to become great men. Actually, so by giving workshops, giving them or teaching them how to behave, how to treat women how to be how to invest in the social development of young women. So I think this is also a very good way to be active, to be partner, or to invest in our development as young men and young girls. So for me, I will also add the fact that we should all start in our families. So as parents, dad, mom, they have a very substantial role into raising our children. So when raising the children, always tell them that they are partners with this with all the girls they will meet. Don't give them the idea in their mind that they are like superior to them when they go to school. They so that they will not be threatened when they see a very successful girl, a very successful woman in the office.
Right.
They will not have this jealousy issue. They will not have this safety issue, or they will not feel insecure because they've been raised to with having the tolerance. So we need to be more tolerant as young men, and then also have the acceptance of one another, because we are here in this life as partners, and then we together we will build a wonderful society. So, but when we start seeing ourselves as being the head, and then the other one is being the tail, that's not gonna work. So, I think that's it.
If I might add to that also, fathers in the home play an integral role when it comes to a young man realizing his potential and molding that young man into somebody who can really offer to the social and economic and cultural development and every other sphere of development in his community, in the family, and in the country. One of the things that we find, the young men who find themselves in situations that are not as good, they come from a home where the father is not there. And so one of the most important roles for a young man in family is to be a role model to his children, especially his sons, his daughters as well, because he will need to be that image and that figure of what a real man is. And so when his daughter reaches that age, when she will want to find a boyfriend or whatever is reality, she can say, this is what I saw my father, you know, and this is the kind of person that I would want. So he sets that example, and he builds that model and that image. So father figure, it is of crucial importance when it comes to molding a young man as well into becoming somebody fruitful and realizing his potential and contributing to society. We're wrapping up with time, but Samantha, you're into this Facebook development thing and media and so on. Now, we know our songs back home and the messages these songs preach when it comes to being a real man. You know what I'm talking about, Samantha. You know the whole stuff there. What role does the media and all of these, you know, music and TVs, the TV programs and shows and whatnot, what role, and they play a very important role, believe me, what role do they play when it comes to breaking that misunderstood idea of masculinity and fostering pure masculinity? But before you go, I noticed Jay Prasad, he is talking about the whole issue of young men and suicide. We will touch on that at a different day, but research will find that suicide is one of the leading cause of death. One of the leading cause of death when it comes to young men. Societal pressure, so many other pressure. You don't know where to turn to, and you turn to something that'll take your own life. So yes, I absolutely agree with you. We will do a segment on that, and we will have young people talking to young people on the issue of suicide when it comes to young men. But Samantha, in a few minutes, in the interest of time, what role does the media and our music and everything play when it comes to bringing the right message of masculinity and the role that a man should play instead of all of these things that we hear? We know the songs.
I don't know the song.
Oh yeah, when we talk about the Caribbean region, maybe you know a few from your area. But Samantha, straight to you.
Yeah, well, I believe that we also need to include the music and the media as key stakeholders, especially when they are channeling all these types of narratives, to not channel these narratives out there, because we need to help them to understand that they are our key stakeholder in society's development, and they influence people, they influence young people more specifically. And the music is spiritual. I don't know for anyone else, but for me, music is very spiritual. Whatever I listen becomes a part of me, and what I put into my being will definitely impact who I become and the kind of decision I make and what I do. So I believe that we need to get to the media and the music people and encourage them to write cleaner lyrics.
Absolutely.
Encourage them
Totally
to
agree.
write positive lyrics. Lyrics that will help to uplift our young men in society and give them that personal boost that they don't need to tell people that, oh, I'm the man. They are there to take responsibility.
Totally agree with you, Samantha. You know, when I was like 16, 17, and music is so powerful. It is powerful, it is edifying, and it is very influencing.
Yeah.
What we see in the Caribbean region, our young men literally pattern their lives after these lyrics, you know, to the point where they start dressing like the lyrics. They buy the same clothes, they assume the entire deportment of and attitude that these lyrics will tell them to do. And it either does good, if it's a good song, or it does bad. And in most cases, what we see in our area there, in our geographical location, it does more bad than it does good. And so when I was 17, 16, I had music for every emotion that I felt. If I was angry, I had a song that will fuel that anger. If I was sad, I had a song for that. Happy, I have a song for that. So it is absolutely important that, you know, like you rightly said, our songwriters and our producers, they start doing something that is edifying and something that will better our society. As we wrap up, because we have about 3 more minutes, what would you like to say to our audience, especially our young men, when it comes to the role that they play in society, in their communities, in their families? They don't even have to be a father or a husband yet, but what role do they play as a son or as a brother in the homes? And I'll pass over to you, Samantha, when Imam C's finished.
Okay, just before moving over on your question, so just to bounce back a little bit about what Samantha just said, I think I have something to say is what entertains you enters you. That means it's very powerful, the music we're listening every time. To all artists, let me tell you something. You guys are doing an amazing job, but remember, you are at the gate of our society. You are the gatekeeper of our society. It's up to you to give inspirational, edifying music, so we can help build our society. So just to wrap up, I think as a role model, the role of young men in today's society, it is crucial. We as young men, we have to be the example in our families. I always tell my brothers, to be the example, because today I'm in the U.S. In my family, whoever are in my family, I tell them, please, you see all the sisters are growing up. We need to be the example. We need to give them the best they see in the world, so that they can believe in the great future, so that they can believe there are young men out there who are also trying to do better things. So we of course now it looks like we are part of the problem. We shouldn't be part of the problem. We should be on the other side, part of the solution, trying to help increase awareness for this situation which is going on, this perception of of women in our society. We should work in order to be more involved. We should be more involved in helping to clean that bad perception of women. Unfortunately, we can see today. So, young men, please be aware and be invest in in women today. Partner with them, work hard with them. Also, advocate. You know, you can go to, there are social medias. Use social media is a very powerful tool today we can use to advocate for women, for equality, gender equality. I do it all the time, and I want you to do the same. So,
All right, thank you very much, Ivamsi, and thank you for being here. Samantha, in about 1 minute or so, or less, in the interest of time, your final remarks.
So my message to young men out there is that it's okay to cry, it's okay to break down, it's okay to have coping mechanism, it's okay to retalk your strategy. It is okay, it's perfectly okay for you to ask for help, most importantly. And it's okay for you to let out some of that emotions. Don't keep it in, don't bottle it up. And that is what most of our men do. And that is one of the root cause of some of the social issues that we continue to face, because it stems from many of the problems that we have in the Caribbean and in Guyana. It stems from emotional disaster that happen inside. Sometimes sit back, take a 2 minutes for yourself, relax, breathe, internalize things differently. On a personal level and on a community level, know that your role is to protect a woman and to protect society. You have that baton for community development, national development, and we all can come together and do this. And as my country motto is, one people, one nation, one destiny.
All right, thank you. One people, one nation, one destiny. And so to all our young men and all our viewers, I want to say to us, let us be young men who will bring something good to society, who will be there, who have potential, and we all have some form of potential to add to society. So let us not become a victim to the pressures of society when society says you have to do X, Y, and Z to be a real man. No, you can be a real man by being somebody that's wholesome, by being somebody that does good, and by being somebody that contributes meaningfully to your family, to your community, and to your society. And so once again, I'd like to thank Globespan 24x7 for providing this platform where young people can come together and have meaningful discussions on topical issues that affect us in our everyday lives. And this is the first of a series of segments where young people from all across the world will be tuned in here to Globespan 24/7 live broadcast, and we will be discussing various issues. Until next time, thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the Saturday.